This is the Mountaineer Moment, your source for all things West Virginia football and basketball. From pregame to postgame coverage and breaking news, we've got you covered. Let's go. All right, Mountaineer fans, welcome to the official game preview episode here on Mountaineer Moment for the Mountaineers matchup upcoming on Saturday with the Utah Utes in their first ever visit to Morgantown. Saturday kickoff at 3:30 on Fox, and so we've got you covered here with a full-on game preview. This is episode number 4 of 4 as far as our breakdown of Utah and West Virginia and what this is going to look like. This one will be the most in-depth, I would say, most broad as far as breaking down both sides of the ball and seeing what we're going to be looking into when the ball kicks off on Saturday afternoon. Again, this is Mountaineer Moment, episode number 32 of this young podcast covering West Virginia football and basketball. Started right at the beginning of season and dropping several episodes a week, previewing action and breaking down the action as well after it happens. So consider subscribing, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, wherever you're watching or listening. That would be great if you'd subscribe. I would appreciate it, and then it helps you because you can know when we have new content coming really often, right? Several times a week at this rate, and super thrilled about that. Super thrilled to be doing this. As a lifelong Mountaineer fan, it's always been a dream, really, to cover the Mountaineers in some way, shape, or form, and so I get to write articles for them on hailwv.com, and then decided to go the podcasting route where I have several years of experience covering other sports and things like that. So super happy to do this, and happy to be covering the Mountaineers till the wheels fall off, baby. So Mountaineer football, again, a preview episode for their matchup with Utah coming up on Saturday. So here's the deal. Mountaineers have had a season's worth of ups and downs through just 4 games. Right, if we do a quick summary of what they've gone through, Robert Morris, you fumble the ball all over the place in week 1 against a team that's not good. You have a good second half, you score, able to run the ball well, several touchdowns on the ground, and get a blowout victory in a game that was close at half. Then you move to week 2 against Ohio, winners of the MAC last season, and you just chance after chance, man. I'm sorry to make you relive that. But you lose that one 17-10, and you had opportunities. You pick off their quarterback, Parker Navarro, 3 times in the second half, and were able to do absolutely nothing with it every single time. Game just didn't go your way, and you had opportunities for it to do so. Ohio was trying to give it to you. Offense just struggled. You lose Jaheim White for the season in that one with his injury in the first half. Jaden Bray, starting receiver, goes down. You lose him for the rest of the season. And so you come into the backyard brawl, and you're feeling pretty deflated. Not that we didn't think that this season was going to be growing pains at times, but just a real struggle. And you head into the backyard brawl, and you get this incredible comeback win. You start well. Pitt goes on like a 21-0 run, 24-0 run, something. And then you're down 10 in the fourth quarter. You've subbed out quarterbacks. Nico, the starter, comes back in. You get this incredible victory with 3 straight scoring drives, a touchdown, a field goal, and 2 touchdowns, 1 in overtime to get the win against Pitt, 31-24. And you're as high as can be. Right, from the lows of the lows against Ohio to the highest of highs against Pitt, that's where you're at. You have this breakout running back burst onto the scene for 3 touchdowns, Ty Edwards. Then you go up against Kansas. You get Jamoy Robinson back, the long-awaited debut of him in a Mountaineer uniform, and Ty Edwards doesn't play. He's hurt. Again, already some other injuries we've talked about. Preston Fox doesn't play. He's hurt. Jaheim White already hurt, and you come out and lay an egg, 41-10, blown out, embarrassed, and so you go from really, really low to really high, back to a really low, right? You open up conference play, you're feeling good about the win against the Pitt in the backyard brawl, comeback victory, And then you just get outclassed, out-physicaled, out-manned, out-toughed, outworked, outplayed by the Kansas Jayhawks in their home stadium. And now you're sitting at 2-2, you're 0-1 in conference. And now you're up against Utah, a team that just a few days ago was ranked as the 16th best team in the country before their loss to number 17 Texas Tech. Them getting embarrassed on their home field, 34-10. Know the story there. If you don't, we've covered it in previous episodes. But now you're back home, and injuries are continuing to pile up. You lose even more guys. Apparently your quarterback Nico Markell's over in Colorado getting worked on for his foot injury. He's questionable to play. And all of a sudden the quarterback controversy and discussion or whatever you want to say is back in full force. Because after the Pitt game, it was Nico, it's him, it's his job, it's over, it's won, it's over, let's go. Then Kansas, the offense sucks so bad. Jalen Henderson, Khalil Wilkins each got some run. Jalen Henderson did a lot, really well with his feet in a blowout loss. I get it. Now the quarterback competition is back on. And so don't be surprised if we see Jalen Henderson start in week 5 against Utah in your second game of conference play. Now, with all that said, the Mountaineers talk a lot, or Rich Rod, with this hard edge mentality and just, physically strong, mentally tough. And here's where it needs to show itself. Right, we saw a glimpse of it in that comeback against Pitt, where you just didn't give up. Mountaineers never quit. Right, Rich Rod's fired up post game, and now your backs are against the wall even more because of these injuries. Because you don't know who's going to play, you don't know who's going to step up. You need someone to step up. By the way, your starting center is questionable with an injury he sustained in the Kansas game. You got an offensive line, period, that just struggles immensely. Are you going to start to get new guys up front to see what they can do? Cam Vaughn hasn't done much in several weeks, right? Because he's getting doubled. But no other receivers are really stepping up. Aside from Rodney Gallagher against Pitt, he had a great game and a win. But against Kansas, we just couldn't. This offense was very similar to what we saw against Ohio. Scored the same amount of points, just 10. And this is a Rich Rodriguez offense. And now Rich Rod's teams improve throughout just about every year, it seems like, as a head coach. But this team's got a lot to do if they want to improve. A lot to do if they want to improve. And so that wasn't necessarily expected to go on that tangent. But this is, a summary of where the Mountaineers are at right now. Struggling, coming off a loss. Lots of injuries, lots of questions, more questions than answers. And now you got a pissed off Utah team coming to town who wants to get in the win column desperately for a team that was ranked just a few days ago. Now, what does Utah have? And we won't go in as much detail because we want to, kind of cover all our bases. But Utah is a really capable runner at quarterback in Devin Dampier. This is a kid that transferred in from New Mexico. Very similar to Parker Navarro in his production and in his size. They're both, he's 5'11", 210. Navarro is 6 foot, 211, so nearly identical. Both of them, Parker Navarro, 2,400 passing yards. I'm going back to 2024. So 2024, Dampier at New Mexico, 2,700 yards passing. Parker Navarro, 2,400 yards passing. Dampier, 12 touchdowns, 12 picks. Navarro, 13 touchdowns, 11 picks. They both get it done with their legs. 2024, 1,100 yards for Dampier, 19 touchdowns. Parker Navarro, 1,054 yards and 18 touchdowns. So really similar stats. Now Dampier transfers from New Mexico to Utah. He's the guy. He gets them off to this 3-0 start, 16th ranked team in the country. And then they laid an egg of their own against Texas Tech. Utah came in, again, to summarize kind of even their season, they came in really being effective being very, very effective on the run. So through their first 3 games, they had 145 carries, 870 yards, and 12 touchdowns. So you do the math, that's almost 50 rushes, 50 carries a game, almost 300 yards a game, and 4 touchdowns a game through their first 3. Texas Tech, obviously the toughest team that they had played, but gave them some trouble all day long. Just over 100 yards, 101 yards on the ground for a team that almost averaged 300, 31 carries. Their longest run of the game was 8 yards. Dampier just had a 7-yard high of a rush attempt, and they got smacked in the mouth, just like the Mountaineers did, but this happened on Utah's home field. Texas Tech, incredibly high expectations with what they did in the transfer portal with NIL funds and all that. Major storyline in the Big 12. But if you're a Mountaineer fan, you recognize that you're an underdog against Utah for good reason. Utah's good. And you're not, right? we're just not right now. And so if we kind of just preview some things to watch for, some keys, if you could say, for the Mountaineers keeping it close or even trying to win this game. Well, I think, number one, it starts with this Utah rushing attack. Week 4 against Texas Tech and only getting 100 yards, 3 yards and some change a carry is the outlier on the season for Utah. They run the ball well, and they got a quarterback who had 19 touchdowns and almost 1,200 yards last season on the ground. So, on the road, Dampier again threw 2 picks. He's certainly prone to interceptions, turnovers. Now you're going on the road against a Mountaineer team that's forced some turnovers this year. Gotten after the quarterback a good bit, 12 sacks. But you really, if you're the Mountaineer defense, you got to think Utah's going to want to come out and run it a lot. West Virginia struggled against the run last week against Kansas, giving up a ton of yards, 250, I think. But before, they through 3 games, they were solid against the run. But I think Utah's going to want to run the football. And we've talked about this already on a previous episode. I think it was the one talking about, Devin Dampier, or maybe just one of the storylines heading into this game. West Virginia has the game tape for Texas Tech, Utah, and they have a blueprint to what it looks like to give this team some trouble. Can you execute it? Right, because I think weeks 1 through 3 against Utah, defenses against them, including Wyoming and UCLA, just couldn't get it done. And you saw what not to do, right? You saw what poor execution defensively looked like. It looked like getting ran over all game long. Not Kansas, but Texas Tech gives you a blueprint of what it could look like to be successful against this offense, and that's exactly what they did. 10 points allowed, 2 picks, and just 100 yards rushing. So you got to, Zach Alley, please, watch that game tape and see what we can apply, see what we can learn, see what we can implement into this defense. I don't think Mountaineers are capable of winning this game unless they get a couple turnovers. Again, if we're going to kind of think about, all right, what do the Mountaineers need to do to win as a home underdog? Well, you got to turn them over. And the reason I think you have to turn them over is because what this offense has proven to us is that they're struggling. And what this defense has proven to us is that they can get some turnovers. Certainly more than last season, right? We're almost tracking over for that, and we're only through 4 games. So you have to force turnovers. You just have to. Dampier is capable of throwing you a couple picks. Let's get him and do something with it. Against Kansas, you couldn't force turnovers. You couldn't stop the run. And you see why you struggled, even defensively. Okay, so that's that side of the ball. You got a team that likes to run. Explosive, quick quarterback that can certainly rack up yards of his own. but he can throw some picks too. You got to capitalize. The other side of the ball, Utah likes to get after the quarterback as well. 10 sacks. They're fourth in the Big 12 in that department. And, there's more questions than answers on offense for West Virginia. So it's even hard to preview that a little bit because it's like, all right, well, who are we going to see? Who's going to be on the field? Might be Jalen Henderson. Might be Jalen Henderson getting the first start of his Mountaineer career. Nico Marchiol banged up and obviously struggled against Kansas. And again, we will say it, sound like a broken record here on Mountaineer Moment, but maybe it is time for a change at quarterback. And it's back and forth, up and down, twist and turn. But man, oh man, when this offensive line is playing as poorly as they are, and Nico's having little time to throw, and not able to really do much with his legs, maybe it's time to go to someone who can do something with their legs, right? Jalen Henderson, capable runner, showcased it throughout his career, and even against Kansas in a small sample size in a blowout game, 70-plus yards for him and a touchdown, making it look easy, on a read option kind of play. And I think he allows you to do more within the offense. Is he as good of a passer as Nico? Not that I've seen, no. But this team, Rich Rod uses the term they could use a spark, whatever you want to call it. This team needs some changes on offense desperately, and that change may very well be it's Jalen Henderson time. Let's see what he can do. Okay. Some other, notes with this Utah team. They got a safety in their secondary that has 3 interceptions. They have a receiver, Ryan Davis, who leads the team in receptions and yards with 241 and 29 catches, I believe. 241 yards, 29 catches for Ryan Davis, who joins Dampier coming over from New Mexico, where he was his number 2 target there. And so they come over. They got some familiarity there. Again, they like to get after the quarterback with, their 10 sacks here through, just a few games. And, they're about middle of the pack, in the Big 12 as far as team defense, as far as points allowed. Utah, just a little bit above West Virginia, only giving up 16.5 points a game. West Virginia giving up 21.5 points a game. Yardage allowed per game for Utah about 290, West Virginia about 320. And so, and I think this Utah team, and again, taking notes from Texas Tech, not just defensively, but offensively, Texas Tech lit them up a little bit, 34 points, a dominant fourth quarter. The game was close, just 10-3 at halftime, but Texas Tech hung 24 on the board in the fourth quarter, even with a quarterback that got injured. And so total between two quarterbacks, they went 25 for 35 for 311 and 2 touchdowns. Morton threw 2 picks as well before he had went down. But, just saying. And then on the ground, 37 carries, 173 for just over 4.5 yards per carry and 2 touchdowns on the ground. So they were able to run it, but they were really able to get it done through the air. Again, 2 quarterbacks, that's pretty impressive to do what they did, 25 for 35, 311, and 2 touchdowns. So, Utah, when they're at their best as far as, defensively, again, you look at just what they did the week before against Wyoming, their pass defense was really good. They got another pick, 12 for 23, 108 yards passing for Wyoming, and then just 34 carries, 121 yards for the Wyoming rushing attack. Trying to see how many sacks they had in that game. 2 sacks total for Utah then. But again, a 31-6 win on the road against Wyoming the week before. UCLA in their opener really struggled to run the football. Just 3 yards a carry for UCLA, no touchdowns. And they got another pick. So, again, I mentioned one guy has 3 picks, but they're getting several interceptions. Nico with UCLA, we know they're struggling, right? They're really struggling this year. But 11 for 22, 136, 1 touchdown, 1 pick for the UCLA quarterback against this Utah team. They had 4 sacks in that game and 5 TFLs in that season opener. Again, they like to disrupt things in the backfield, get after the quarterback, and make plays that way. So offensive line's got to come prepared and be ready. Again, for a Utah team that's going to come in angry, come in with a chip on their shoulder, come in with something to prove, because they do have something to prove, and they're trying to get back in that AP poll. And, they have aspirations, obviously, of competing for a Big 12 title. So, I mean, if you want to win a Big 12 title, you better not start 0-2. So they're going to come out prepared, focused, ready, and Mountaineers got to give them their best shot, because if you come out offensively, defensively, special teams, even giving up a kick return touchdown, right? Like, if you come out and do what you did against Kansas, you have no shot. You have no shot, right? This is arguably a better team than what you just saw last week. You're at home now, wearing these throwback uniforms, should be pretty cool, right? And you just hope that you come out like you have something to prove. Play with your hair on fire, right? Because you got something to prove, and don't put it past Rich to make some changes, right? Like, if what's you're playing out there ain't working. Sorry, if what you're playing ain't working, maybe you need to make some changes. And so don't be surprised if we see some new faces, not just because of injuries, but because of production for this West Virginia offense and this West Virginia defense. And we'll see what happens. But again, this is Mountaineer Moment, episode number 32, and the official game preview of the Mountaineers and the Utah Utes in Morgantown this Saturday at 3:30. We'll have post-game coverage coming up after that game, so make sure you keep on the lookout for new episodes wherever you're watching or listening, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music. Be sure to subscribe, and we'll see you next time on Mountaineer Moment. Let's go Mountaineers.